With a combined experience of 37 UFC bouts split between these two guys, we have a big-time fight coming up at welterweight between the ranked Neil Magny, the unranked Max Griffin, and when you consider it, both of these guys were involved in the Ultimate Fighter season. Lesnar versus Carwin. Max Griffin wasn't even able to make it out of the qualifying rounds. Neil Magny made it all the way to the semis. So a big-time opportunity for bragging rights there. I'm sure nobody's going to talk about that this week, but you heard it here first. And when you look at this one, Neil Magny's fought the way tougher level of competition. I'm going to list some of the guys that he's fought. He's fought Kelvin Gastelum, Johnny Hendricks, Rafael Dos Anjos, Carlos Condit, and Robbie Lawler.
Damian Maia?
All guys, and Damian Maia, that are all title adjacent. So some pretty strong experience there for Neil Magny. Now, the spot where he's really struggled, main events. I mean, he's 1-2 in main event opportunities. They've all been outside of the United States. The first one was against Kelvin Gastelum. It was a fight of the night. It was a split decision win. That one in Mexico. He takes on Santiago Ponzinibbio in Argentina. He loses that one in impressive fashion. I guess impressive for Ponzinibbio. And then he takes on Michael Chiesa in a fight that you don't remember, and nobody does, because it was on a Wednesday.
Sadly, I do, and it was one of the worst main events I've ever seen.
It was on a Wednesday in Abu Dhabi. That was like, I've secured an island. We're going to Fight Island. But realistically, when you look at it for Neil Magny, by and large, very good defensive wrestling. We see that. I mean, Chiesa was able to expose it, but Chiesa's very good in that one respect, and very good, really good volume, and it lasts from the first round all the way to the third round. And if you go back and watch his last fight against Jeff Neal is one of those guys that's very, very cerebral, really picks the shots. It was to his detriment, especially in the third round when he was fighting Magny, because even Magny on the back foot, he's popping volume, he's pawing out the jab, he's throwing that right hand out there, he's throwing a leg out there. He's always doing something in those circumstances. And listen, we're to the point right now where Neil Magny is still ranked at 34, putting on performances like this, and it's really freaking tough to beat him.
You know country music a lot better than I do. Who's the guy who sings, "When it rains, it pours"?
You don't know who Luke Combs is?
I don't listen to a lot of country music.
He's
Neil Magny, that is his career. Like, when he's winning, he wins 7 fights in a row, and you're like, wow, Neil Magny's back. Because that's been the story of Magny's career. He'll go on a long win streak, get a big opportunity, similar to the one he got against Damian Maia, and that's always the first one I go back to. UFC 194, I don't know why my memory is so good about Neil Magny versus Damian Maia, but when Maia is having success, he takes him down, immediately takes his back, and there's not a lot of give and go. 190, sorry, I was off by a few. When Neil Magny's having success, though, like you had said, it's a lot of volume. It's just a lot at once. But when things are going poorly for Neil Magny, oh my god, they go poorly. And I bring up basketball a lot on this channel, and when you watch a lot of any sport, you just sort of focus on a team's weaknesses more than their strengths, you know, because coaches at the professional level are really, really smart, and that's what they focus on too. And if you guys know anything about the Philadelphia 76ers, you would know they've got some strengths right now. James Harden, Joel Embiid, that's good. A lot of weaknesses on that team, though, that people just don't want to talk about, and that feels like the game of Neil Magny, because if we just want to talk about the positives, I'd argue he's one of the best volume strikers in this division, one of the rangiest strikers in this division, and I know we'll have more to talk about this, probably at least an above average wrestler. I would say one of the better overall grapplers in this division. But that's the thing about Neil Magny. He's not really a wrestler. He's not really a jiu-jitsu player. He uses a lot of clinch, and he uses that for his striking. He's really good with his elbows up close. It's just nothing Neil Magny does is really by the book. This is what I will say, though. When he is able to keep his range, he is a very, very tough fighter to fight. I always go back, and again, to the Kelvin Gastelum main event, because against Gastelum, he starts out very strong, but as the fight goes on, Gastelum's starting to close the distance, and he gets closer and closer and closer, to where he drops Magny twice in the later rounds of that fight. But like I said, early in the fight, when Magny's having a lot of success with a lot of his volume, Gastelum can't get anything going, because when you're fighting someone like Magny, it's kind of like fighting Aljamain Sterling with way worse grappling. You have to worry a lot about the volume, you have to worry a lot defensively, and you can't really throw your own punches, because when you're fighting an opponent who's always doing something to you, you're the one reacting to what they're doing, and you're not the one imposing your will. So let's go to the flip side of Max Griffin. We brought up some of the weaknesses of Neil Magny. Magny, I don't think, is going to get out-wrestled by Max Griffin. I think Max Griffin hits a lot harder, especially with his boxing, but the thing I worry about with Griffin is that if he is going to have success on the feet, he really is only a boxer, and I think that's going to be really tough to do against someone like Magny, who can implement his front kicks and leg kicks so well.
When you look at it for Max Griffin, I had no idea, and I've been doing this for a time or two, that he's a black belt in Bok Fu. Do you know what Bok Fu is, Matt?
No idea.
It's a combination of Kempo, Karate, Taekwondo, and Kung Fu. I had no clue! And this has, like, been a known thing that's out there for a long time. But, again, you look at the win streak that Max Griffin's on, and it's completely resurrected his career. And I know he had lost 2 in a row, one to Alex Morono. That was a wild fight. Like, Griffin comes back near the end. Split decision lost to Alex Oliveira. He goes out there against Ramiz Brahimaj and just, like, takes everything he ever worked
isn't great,
for.
Though.
And then he goes out there against Sung Kanon, and he looked like a man possessed, finishing him early, throwing the kicks, really putting everything together. And then his last time against Carlos Condit in the first round, it was like, okay, like, we're here. We're really doing this. So, again, in that fight, knocks him down. I mean, it was just work, work, work. He was totally outworking him. Let Condit back in the second round. In the third round, he really took over. But really what I had there was... he actually had really good leg kicks in his last fight, which isn't something that we talk about a lot out of Max Griffin, and he was throwing them so damn hard that, like, Condit couldn't check them. Condit was, like, spinning on everyone. It really did...
Condit's retired 7 times before that fight.
It really did take him away. Condit was on a nice little run before that one. You simmer down.
Craig, he beat Court McGee. He wasn't on a nice little run.
And in that Morono fight, again, I bring that up because Max Griffin got dropped in the second round of that, only to rally back. So, again... very, very tough fighter, very tricky fighter. Again, I know he's trained a little bit out of Team Alpha Male, a little bit out of MMA Gold, but primarily out of Mare Noble's martial arts and kickboxing. So when it comes to this fight, again, with Max Griffin, it's a lot of forward pressure, and he kind of can follow guys. He doesn't necessarily cut the cage all that well. For Neil Magny, we don't talk about this very often, but a fighter who's very good on the back foot at still throwing a lot of volume, still doing something.
But here's the problem, though. When he's on the back foot, that's when he's susceptible to getting hit by power shots. He was on the back foot against Ponzinibbio. He was on the back foot against Gastelum when he got caught. Like, that's when he is susceptible to those big shots.
Like most people. But when we look at the odds for this
then it's not
one,
a strength for him, then, if it gets caught like most people.
It's 25-9. Like, we're talking about a very good fighter who's only losing to the upper echelon getting knocked out.
I understand, though, but I wouldn't say striking on the back foot is a big strength of Magny. That's what I would watch out for if I think Griffin's going to have a lot of success. I think Magny needs to be the one walking forward, because when he is walking backwards, he is super susceptible to leg kicks and power shots. So I don't think Magny's that good of a striker moving backwards. I really do think he's going to need that forward pressure.
Beat the tar out of Jeff Neal in the third round of his last fight. Doing that, we look at the odds for this one. Neil Magny open -150. He's -220 right now. Max Griffin open at a +130. He's +180. If we have a look at the Tapology votes, surprise to us, they are to you. Matt, I'm going to say 65% over under Magny.
I would say over.
I'm going to say, oh my goodness. 979 total votes, 92% Magny, 86% by decision for the 8% that have Griffin, 52% by decision, 34% by knockout. I think Neil Magny's going to win a decision in this one. I know that might be, a shocker to most people. But, yeah, you look at this one, Matt. Max Griffin's on a tidy little run, but I don't see him having the tools. And when he really does set up those power right hands, they're great. And he could do that against Magny. I just don't see it in this one.
So you brought up the Jeff Neal fight a lot, and I do think that's a good one to bring up. But I go back to the Li Jingliang fight, too, because what Neil Magny was able to do against Jingliang was, when we're all the way on the outside, I'm going to have a lot of volume, and the second you get close to me, I'm going to clinch you and throw elbows, and that's it. He never gave Jingliang the chance to get the fight in his Goldilocks zone to where it was his perfect range. And oddly enough, Max Griffin does have a similar perfect range to someone like Li Jingliang, where they can land the leg kick, where they can land some of those uppercuts. Neil Magny is made to fight some of those guys. Now, again, the upper echelon power punchers are always going to give Magny trouble. But against these other sort of well-rounded type of fighters, Magny's always going to have a lot of success, I believe. So unless Magny has completely fallen off, because he has been at the top of the division for a long time, I do like him in this fight, though.
Big time opportunity for both of these guys. Do you have sea-level Max Griffin? Do you have mountain-level Neil Magny, a majestic fighter out of Elevation Fight Team? Let us know down below in the comments section who you have in this fight and in the rest of them. You guys drive the channel, and we certainly appreciate that. Big time fight in the main event. You got Curtis Blaydes taking on Chris Daukaus. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.